Peace everyone, Unmasked here, and welcome back to another pastel tutorial. Today we're going to be finally getting to our lion. We're going to be doing some base coloring, and depending on where we get with the base colors of the fur, we might get to the eyes and the nose as well. Although we're not going to rush this process because up to this point, we've kind of just focused on the parts of the painting that are not the focus point, and now getting to the focus point is where we really need to spend quality time with in order to get our lion looking really, really good. So I'm actually going to start off with a bit of white, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my white soft pastel to just put in where those really bright highlights are, just to protect them and have a little bit of color on them. So I'm just going to start over here on the body and just work really slowly and kind of get those shapes. They're pretty random shapes, and you don't have to get them perfectly because in reality they're just the shapes of the leaves where the sunlight is, poking through the canopy of the tree. So your precision isn't all that necessary. I'm just going to use the corner edge of my pastel and get the shape as good as I can get it. I was really excited to finally get started on the lion. And real quick, I want to mention that if you missed it, I uploaded a video earlier this morning over on YouTube, and it is kind of a collaborative project with Colored Pencil magazine. Each month for the new issue of the magazine, when it comes out, there's a workshop series that a different artist hosts each month. I did it last year. Last year I did a flower. This year I did a coin, in particular a US dime. And so that written tutorial was in the magazine for the month of May. And I always like to do a video tutorial that goes alongside the written tutorial, because everybody learns a little different. I like learning from videos, but sometimes you get a different perspective when you read the tutorial as opposed to just hearing it and seeing it. Oh, hello Barbara and Rebecca, good to see you both. If you guys have any questions for me, don't hesitate to ask. I always feel like it's been like a really long time since I streamed. I don't know, something just recently, I guess. Hope everyone had a good Monday and a good weekend. Had a pretty busy weekend getting that video that I uploaded today complete. So that was a bit of a project. Fun to do. Alright, a little bit on the lion's beard here. Now, you don't have to try to get like any individual hairs or anything like that. Really, it's just getting the broad shapes, and we can reshape everything with our other colors. I have 5 other colors that I'm going to be using in the base color before we ever move on. So like I said, there's a possibility that we don't get to the eyes and the nose today, simply because I'm going to work in my base layers for a bit longer than some of my previous tutorials, because I just want to get as much done with the soft pastels before moving on to the pencils. Oh, hi there, Marcy. This is one benefit of working on a non-white surface, is that it allows you to use white and see the results immediately. It's kind of nice. I might I might end up buying more of the colored sheets of the pastel mat just to have a bit of flexibility for some future projects and whatnot. Because sometimes it is nice to just be able to apply the white and see it, kind of see the result immediately. Alright, I think I'll just apply a little bit more white up here. I don't want to go too crazy with the white. Just want to kind of get a majority of the spots covered, or at least mapped out a little bit. I can actually still see my line art through this this layer of white, but once we apply the other colors, it won't show up nearly as much. All right, I think I'm good with that. Been missing the drawing journals on Monday. Yeah, the drawing journals, they will come back eventually. It's just, you know, the drawing journals have always been more for me than anyone else. You know, just kind of sitting down, drawing, and having fun with everyone. But I haven't had any like time to start like a new project or a new idea that I could just sit around and doodle on the drawing journals. I still have my painting that I need to finish. Yeah, I could go on and on with a bunch of excuses, but I'll save you the headache. Well, real quick, getting back to this tutorial, I'm going to grab kind of this, it's kind of a sandy color. Is this the color that I want? I'm trying to double check my colors here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is a light brown. Wait a minute, let me just make sure I'm, no, wait a minute. That's the wrong color. I'm looking for this color. Sorry, I'm trying to reach for it from my color chart. Yeah, so it's a light brown. It has a tint of orange to it, and I'd say this is pretty close to like the base color of the fur. And you know, I think I'm just gonna start down here and do one section at a time. Kind of chop off this this part of the body, and then it's got the paw back here, his hind leg, a little bit. And I'm not going to get too close to my logs because I don't want to like mess up the work that we put in on them. All right, now that I have this color, I'm just going to be filling in the fur kind of as a base layer, and then I have some lighter tans that I'll use for the rest of the fur. How do I decide what color paper to use? That's a good question. I just happen to have this color left over from a pack of colored paper previously, and a lot of the kind of subtle colors coming through on the fur of the lion is actually orange, and some of the toning colors is a bit orange. So I figured this would be good for the fur. I mean, it's pretty close to the orange that I'll be using for the fur, and that's why I selected this particular color. I think I have maybe another sheet of gray or something like that. I didn't have a lot of color choices. I think gray and like a dark blue or something. But this one just came close. To be honest with you, I've never really considered colored paper to be that significant, regardless of what color you end up choosing, regardless of the subject. You know, it's never really made a huge difference for me personally, and that's why I don't usually do it. And like I said, I probably would have just ended up using white for this painting if I didn't have some of this colored paper just left over from a pack, and I figured, you know, I might as well use it. So that's really the only thought that went in to this particular piece and this choice of color. All right, now I'm going to use a light sandy color. It's kind of hard to see because it's a little dirty, but this is kind of a flesh color, but not a lot of saturation. It's more of like a light khaki. And this is another really important color that happens a lot in the fur. Oh, hello, Philip. Really, the benefit of the color paper that I find most obvious is not necessarily the color and how it relates to the colors in your project, but just the fact that it's not white. And you're able to apply white to it like I did here, and it show up where things are really close to being pure white and all of that. So that's really what I consider the most beneficial aspect of colored paper. And in that case, it could be any shade of gray or any other random color. Especially when it comes to such an opaque medium as pastels, you don't really get a lot of benefit from colored paper, I feel like, unless you do a really loose style where you let the paper show through. For me personally, I always tend to completely cover everything and make my paper 100% pastel where you don't see anything. When I work on white paper, you know, I'm always covering it completely. And in this case, I mean, my background completely covers the paper. My logs here completely cover the paper. And when I'm done with my lion, it will also completely cover the paper. And so there won't be a huge benefit that I've gotten from using this color of paper. But it's nice while working that I can apply the white and see it right away. I mean, that's really where I see the benefit from it. But opinions are obviously going to be different, you know, and I think style is probably one of the biggest contributing factors. All right, now I'm switching to a nice kind of reddish brown, and this is the darkest red brown that I have in my set. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the same exact color that I used at the ends of the logs. So I'm just going to apply some of this where the shadows are at on the lion. And these base colors, you know, they're always quite loose and messy. So don't when you're doing the base layers, I think what will benefit you the most to focus on is covering the paper where you can cover the paper safely. I'm not trying to get clean edges where my masking film was or where my logs are. There's still a gap there that I'm leaving that I'll come back to with pencils when I do the finishing touches on the fur with the pencils themselves. And I'll just jump back to that lighter orange brown that I used previously, and apply some of this over that khaki color for the shadows. Because once I blend it, it will make a little bit more sense. That khaki color will mix with this color, and I'll get kind of the right value that I'm looking for. Because I will be using my sponge brush to blend it out. What is the best way to avoid a gap or blurry halo effect between the background and masking film? Oh, well, you shouldn't have that blurry halo effect. When you lay down masking film, that's the reason I love using masking film, is because you avoid creating that halo effect. When I use my blending knife to blend out, I'm always talking about working away from the edge, and that's what you have to do. You have to just work away from the edge so that you don't peel up your masking film, and then that color will lay right there. It's the same thing with the edges of the tape. Same exact concept. Sometimes you have to tap in place or just kind of brush it away a little bit from the area. But yeah, that's the benefit of using the masking film, is that you don't have those halo effects, because the halo is usually comes from not having your subject masked off and then having to color the background around your subject, and that's what creates the halo effect, because you're like coloring around it and it creates this arch around the whole subject. But with the masking film, you don't have such issue, because you don't have to work around anything. You just get to apply the color freely without any regard to your main subject, because you don't have to be careful with anything. Now, when it comes to working the main subject around this edge, once you get to the pencils, you can just work right over top of the background, and that's the way that you would want to do it in painting with acrylics or oil. You do your background and everything, and then you can just lay your main subjects right over top of the background, and you have no gap between your subject and your background. I mean, realistically, you can kind of do all of this at once. That's one way of painting with pastels. You can kind of block in your large shapes and then fine-tune them later. But masking is something that I've always done and always enjoyed doing and will always do in the future. Alright, I'm going to grab a little bit of brighter orange now. So this is pretty much just a kind of a bright clay orange. It's on the low saturation side of oranges, so it's not super bright. And I'm going to apply some of this, it's hard to tell, but this is where the stomach and the back hip for the back left leg meet. And it has kind of this bounce light, so the sunlight coming down is bouncing off something here, reflecting back up onto the fur, kind of turning it a bit orange. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of this orange in this area of the fur, kind of right there, a little bit at the top of the hip. Yeah, just a bit of orange there, and then back on the paw, just a tiny bit, and maybe a little bit right in there. All right. Now I'm just going to blend these colors out, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to start in the highlights and just kind of blend them into the darker colors a little bit, and then I'll move into the rest of the colors. Yeah, if you're having kind of a difficulty with the masking film and a halo effect, there really shouldn't be any halo effect issues, and that's why I prefer to do it that way. with the masking film. So what I would recommend, it's a lot easier to practice on small scale projects than, something like this, and then you peel it off and then you get this effect that you aren't happy with. Just cut out a few random shapes of your masking film, apply it to your pastel mat, nothing, just practice piece, and then color whatever on the background, peel it up, and then practice on a circle or a square or something like that, something easy. Just remove the complexity of the subject itself and make sure that you can get the effect that you want. All right, now that white is blended out, I'm just going to blend out the rest of this color, these colors all together. Probably do 2 layers with the soft pastels before calling it a day. That's why I said I'm not sure if we'll get to the eyes and the nose today with the pencils, because I want to get the base layers on the fur almost completely done. Like I want the fur to start looking pretty fur-like. By the end of the live stream, our lion should be fairly well colored in, but the details in his face will be missing. And I'm not concerning myself with the direction of the fur. I just focused on kind of the colors. I think I talked about this in a previous tutorial where instead of focusing on any particular detail or worrying about the texture to come, we're just going to focus kind of on the colors and the shapes. And that's what I'm going to do today on the base layers here. So I'm not concerned that this, if I were to imagine that this is fur, it looks like it's going this way and this is going that way. I'm not worried about direction, just worried about colors and shapes. And even if I have some texture left over, that would be perfectly fine, because we'll rework everything in detail with the pencils anyway, so it doesn't make much sense to stress out about it. All right, let's go to the paw, and I'm just going to start with that light khaki color that I used as a base color. And I'm just going to come into the paw here and pretty much cover everything. Oh, these pastels are so smooth on this paper. They're just like melted butter. It's fantastic. All right, now I'm going to use the kind of the medium orange brown that we used right here a little bit, and just use this to darken a few spots. Start getting these random shapes, because the paws don't ever look like paws. They're just kind of random blobs of color. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. A lot of that detail and stuff will come much easier with the pencils. Now I'm going to use the dark brown that I used previously. Put in a few indications of where those fingernails are at, those claws. There we go. Just a little bit. I'm going to go back to that khaki color. Continue filling in the space around those colors that I applied. And then there's one other color that I want to apply, And this is actually just a warm gray. Wait, is this the color that I wanted? Yeah. Yeah, this is just a warm gray, and it's similar to the white, but it's not nearly as bright. And this is going to help establish some of those lighter parts of the fur where like the light is hitting, but it's not like perfect. It's not pure white highlight. And this happens a lot, highlighting the intricacies of the paw. So just work this color in around some of those lighter bumps and kind of toenails and fingers and all of that of the paw. Kind of wraps around top side of here. And you know, there's some of it in the body. So I'll use this to reestablish some of the light in the body. There we go. All right, now let's just blend. Actually, I want to add a tiny bit more of that medium brown to this part of the paw, just so that when I blend it out, it has a slightly darker value. And then, of course, a tiny bit of that orange shows up in the fur. Just tint that a tad orange. I'll just take my sponge knife and blend out the white with the corner, and then just blend out the rest of the colors gently. And it's not going to look like much. Kind of implies a little bit of the paw. And let's do this outer edge. So I'm going to start with the khaki color. The light khaki color. I'm just going to work up around the ear here. And I'm going to stay about, I don't know, 2-3 millimeters away from the edge, because I don't have any reason to try to get that level of detail with these soft pastels. Save that for the pencils. Just do a quick pass with this khaki color before grabbing my middle brown, kind of the clay orange brown. Just do a few strokes of this color in here, tucked in around the ear and down here. And let's see, I'm going to grab my dark brown now. And let's see, fill in underneath that one layer of fur, because it kind of has like, it has the fur that's like part of its face. It's like the beard, I guess, around its face here, and then its actual mane is like behind its head, and that's this fur that kind of wraps all the way around to its chest. And so there's different layers of fur here, and you can see where I cut it off, both in the line art and in this rendering really quick with these colors, where I kind of chop it off. I'm going to go pretty heavy down here with the dark brown. Might even add in a splash of black down there if I need to, but probably not. I think I'll just keep it these five primary colors of the fur, and that should give us enough enough of a base color that when we start working with pencils, it will all come out looking really nice. Alright, it's got a dark spot right up here by the ear, and a little bit over here. This side here is darker. Yep, let's grab that neutral gray really quick. There's a little bit of a highlight kind of up in this area, so I'm just going to use some of that neutral gray right up there, and then there's a few little highlights right in there. And let's just blend this out real quick. I'm keeping it rather messy to leave some of that texture in there. A lot of these colors will be completely transformed by the pencils. So as important as the base coloring is, it's not something that, you know, it's not something that you always need to, you know, stress about on getting it to look a certain way. You know, there's so much flexibility with the soft pastels in combination with the pastel pencils that, you know, it is truly just like the friendliest medium, and it's almost impossible to actually make a permanent mistake with this medium. So you can see that it's just kind of a rough look with these colors, and so you don't have to try to get your lion to look perfect with you know, these broad strokes of pastel pencils. All right, I'm going to start with the khaki color on this paw over here. I'm just going to fill it in. Probably could have used a bit more white. I'm going to fill in this top side of the paw. I'm going to grab that neutral gray and start filling in the rest of this highlight here. There we go. Let's grab the medium clay brown, do some of the shadows. You know, I didn't do any of the orange on the mane, so I'll have to go back and do a little bit of the orange. Now, in the reference photo, you get a little bit of a lens flare down in this bottom left corner, and essentially it kind of makes that part of the photo look washed out a little bit. It makes it look more gray and even kind of tints it green. I'm just going to ignore that aspect of the reference photo because I don't think it adds anything to the actual image. In fact, I think it just makes it look worse. So I'm going to ignore that haze of green down here. You notice I didn't put it on the logs, and I'm not going to put it on the paw either. Now I'm going to use the dark brown to get the darker shadows on the paw. Just right in here. There's not a lot of this color showing up, I don't think. And let's see. Let's do a little bit more of the khaki color, I think, just up here at the top. And a little bit more of that neutral gray at the top also, where that highlight comes wrapping around the paw a little bit. What is the best way to avoid a gap or, wait, Did I read that already? Yeah, I did. Sorry, I looked up and it looked like the chat went down further. So I started reading the same question. All right, what else? What else? Oh, a little bit more of that khaki color. Because right here, there's actually a little bit of the leg that shows through, breaks up that paw just a tiny bit right in there. And then that dark shadow with the dark brown actually comes more like that. Let's see. Let's go with the orange. So our orange tinting color. I'm just going to apply a little bit of this up at the top here, a little bit of it right in there, and I'll throw in some down on the toes, and then I need to put some of it in the mane. So I'm just going to sprinkle in a little bit of this orange on the outer edge, and a little bit up here by the ear. And now I'm just going to quickly blend out that orange in the mane, and then I'll blend out the paw here. I'll just start with the white. And the light gray, and then I'll just work into the rest of the colors. Give it a quick blend. I'm not trying to spread these colors out too far either. I'm trying to keep them pretty close to where I put them and just soften them a little bit and get them pressed into the paper so that they don't move around as much. All right. Let's move on to this part of the mane, and yeah, let's just do that part of the mane. So I'm going to start with the medium clay brown, the kind of orangey brown. I'm just going to come in here and kind of find a spot that I like, and where that line art is, just kind of chop that section of the mane off. Then I'm going to grab my khaki color, kind of work around this highlight, around the edges a little bit, bring this khaki color down about right there. Now I'll grab my dark brown and find that separation between the mane and the body and this paw here, and then also the beard, as I'm going to probably continue to call it, and the mane. And let's see, we got this fur separating the face from the beard with a pretty dark line, and it goes into the mouth and a little bit under here, and also this side of the mouth, up along this side of the face. There we go. And you know what? We can just throw this color right into the ears. So right on the inside of the ears. The fur is pretty dark, so I'll add that there on that side. It's getting harder to separate each little tiny bit of the lion. So I'm just gonna, then we have it right in the middle of the eyes, and it comes down about right there. At the top part here, there's this triangle of dark fur, and then a little splash of dark fur there. And over, trying to find this spot, like right here. There we go. All right, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm going to go back to the light gray, the warm gray color, and come back down here to the mane. Just do a little bit of highlights right along the edge here, kind of all the way up to the main highlight. And let's grab the khaki color, apply some of it right here on the beard, and just work it all the way around. Yeah, let's just do it all the way around here. I'm going to grab some of the clay brown. There's a side of the face here, right in there. Just apply some of this from the face into the beard a little bit. Kind of get this color showing up a little bit with some texture. And then underneath its chin. And over onto this side. Coming from the face. Kind of sort of mapping out the directionality of the fur, but not really. I'm not trying to do it with any degree of precision. Let's see here. I'm going to grab the warm gray, and I'm just going to highlight the beard, the chin beard, with a little bit of that, and then I'm going to use the khaki color right over top of it, so that it's not so bright. Then, let's see here, use a little bit of the orange to bring in some of the orange in these areas. Oh, hello Helen, good to see you. And I bring a little bit of this orange over here as well. And some of that warm gray also. There's a few hairs over here that I just want to highlight. There we go. All right, let's just blend out those areas. I'm going to start with this white since I didn't blend that one out too well. Just work down into here. And again, I'm like barely touching the paper. Just enough to kind of press the colors into the paper a little bit without spreading them too far. Trying to keep them as close to where I applied them as I can. Let's do the top of the head. I'm going to start with the khaki color. So that light khaki color, just going to color around everything. Up in here. Around these highlights a little bit. By the face with this khaki color also. The fur gets quite a bit more orange right in this kind of vicinity. It's kind of like the sun is hitting it almost directly unfiltered and turning it much more orange. So I'm going to grab that orange and just apply it early on. A lot of it comes up right in this spot here. Quite a bit of orange. And then I'll go to my medium brown that we used so far, the kind of the clay brown. Bring in some of those darker brown colors at the top of the head here. Alright, you know what? I'm going to grab the warm gray and rework a couple of these highlights. Try to get these shapes a little bit closer to what I need them to be without covering the details of the eyes. That's one thing that I want to avoid, is coloring or covering the line art for the eyes themselves, because I don't want to have to draw them twice. A little bit of a highlight here and around the ear. You know, I don't know if I want to even attempt to get the edge of the ear, but I managed to do it. There's a little bit of a highlight here on this ear also. And then over here, over top of this eye, there's a highlight here. But it's not as bright as the pure white one, so that's why I didn't do it with the pure white. Alright, let's go back to our khaki color. Try to fill in some more of this. I'm pretty much going to avoid this part with too much of the soft pastel, because a lot of that will get with the, well, most of that we're going to do purely with just the pencils. And I'm kind of avoiding it so that I can preserve as much of that line art as I have down. So I'm now, unlike what I've done with the line up to this point, I'm kind of working in leaving extra space between the line art. And I'm just going to kind of apply this khaki color very, very broadly around all of that line art, and use just this base khaki color for the base layer, and then apply the pencils over top of it. So that's pretty much what the plan is here. Alright, let's go back to the medium brown. This side of the head is pretty dark. And then I'm going to grab the pure white. This side of the face is very highlighted, so there's a lot of detail there. So I'm still trying to work in between the line art and not cover it too much. There we go. That was the pure white, by the way. And you know what? I think I can probably spread out the rest of the colors here. So let's just start in the highlights and blend those out first, and then smear the rest of our colors around and see where we're at with our lion. Well, I would do the eyes first also, if I were to do this purely in pencils, but I'm using the soft pastels to do just this really broad base layer, so that I don't have to use as much as my pencils. And then I guess, you know, once I have the base layers, I will start with the eyes first, because I always start with the eyes first as well, but not when I'm applying broad base colors. I mean, if I was working on a portrait that had a background, I'd still do the background first, even though when actually coloring the portrait, I always start with the eyes. I guess in this way the paper color comes in even more handy now that, I don't have to really fill much in to cover what would otherwise be white. Alright, now I'm just going to spread around the rest of the color. And I'll even go over some of the areas where I didn't apply any pastel at all, just to cover up the paper a little bit. Still being very, very delicate though, and trying not to spread the color too far. Trying to keep it pretty much where I applied it. Because it'd be really easy to just, smear everything together and it just turn into one big muddy color. That orange shows up nicely. I like that orange color. We're also going to incorporate a bit of our background greens into our line. That's where I think the second base color is going to come into. So once I blend this out and feel confident with the way it's looking, we'll just start on the second base layer. We'll just kind of start the whole process over again. So I'll just come down here to the body down here, and let's see, kind of thinking I might incorporate another color. I don't know, this one's pretty close to what I want. It almost feels like I have these colors mixed up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to apply this color. So this is a new color. This was the clay brown, that middle brown that we were using, and this one has a little bit more red. So they're both orange brown, but this one, the new one that I'm going to use, this one is more of a red orange. And I'm going to see if I like the way that this works over top of these colors. Oh yeah, and this is the color that I was hoping would show up. Yeah, this is a good color. And this color here, I'm going to just start applying somewhat in the transition areas where the darkest shadow moves towards the mid-tones. This is a really good color. I like this color a lot. And I'm just going to do this over the entire lion. So I'm just going to work with this one color and then do all the blending at the end. Oh my goodness. How have I been streaming for this long so far? I didn't get an announcement for the stream like usual. Heard nobody had. Did something change at YouTube? Well, the Patreon stream, there's no announcement. There's no announcement on Facebook or YouTube or anything. What I usually do, I kind of ran out of time today. I've been working all morning, and I kind of had to hurry up to get set up for today's stream. And usually what I do is I send out an announcement through Patreon for the stream. 10 minutes before the stream starts, I post an announcement on Patreon, which should send everyone pledged an email, because I get emails from the people I'm pledged to when they make an announcement. So I didn't have time. I forgot to set it up because I usually schedule it. But yeah, my apologies for that. I tried to do it because I noticed that when I do those announcements, I get a lot more people showing up for the streams. Yeah, I still have a lot of work I need to do as soon as I get done streaming. And yeah, I thought we'd get to the eyes for sure today. I was really confident that we'd get to the eyes, but I had no idea that this hour was going to go by so incredibly fast, because I feel like I just started and the hour has already gone by. And I actually have to leave to go meet my wife at the grocery store because we have no food at all. Oh yeah, I really like the addition of this color. That was a good choice. Good color choice. This has just like the right amount of red that it just works perfectly for that that effect of creating like that transition from the highlight to the cooler colors of the fur. It almost matches the paper. It's almost the color of the paper, ironically. Alright, let's bring some of it into this ear here. And let's see. Where else can I throw this color? I think it fits nicely here on the side of the face. Alright, so that's one color down. I want to incorporate a bit of the green, but I don't want to overdo it. So what I'm going to do, this was not a color that I used in the background. I'm searching for a green that I used in the background. Okay, this here was a green that we used in the background, and it's just kind of like a low saturation forest green. And I'm going to apply it only in the mid-tone khaki color, and I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of it kind of scattered about where I feel like the background should reflect onto the lion. So I'm only going to apply a very small amount of this color throughout in that khaki color that is all over the place. Just a tiny bit of this green. This is just going to help the lion feel like it belongs in this scenery. There we go. And let's see, what else? I think that's pretty good. Yeah, let's just blend this out now. And once I blend this out, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. And then next week for sure, we'll just start right there on the eyes. And we'll just be using pencils from there on out. So we'll be done with the soft pastels, and we'll just move on to working with the carbothellos. And I don't know. Can't say for sure that I'll be able to get it done next week, but for sure I think 2 more weeks. I think next week we'll get on to the details of the face, and we'll probably get to apply quite a bit of the fur around the eyes and the nose and the mouth and all of those details. And then the following week, we just got to start applying those same colors around the rest of the lion to get the fur texture and all of that in place. And then that might be it. So there might only be 2 more weeks on this project. And then what I'll end up doing is probably recording. I'll probably record the finishing stage, the polishing stage, and kind of upload that as a live stream, similar to how I did the raccoon project, the bonus footage for that, because that was kind of fun. It was nice to not be drawing and still hang out and talk to everyone. So I think I might do that for the lion here. I knew it was going to look messy today, but it actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to. Sometimes these base layers are really, really ugly, but this one's not too bad. All right, everyone. So that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on Thursday. Actually, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be live streaming tomorrow, and I'll be live streaming on Thursday. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Peace.